So hi everyone, today we're going to be doing another wheel demo. This time we're going to be focusing on the steps when you are throwing. So attached to this assignment there is a Google Doc that has 10 numbers and 10 steps. I'm going to go through each number and each step. As I'm going, I'm going to try to go a little bit quicker with the video to make it a little bit easier to upload. So it's important that if I'm going too fast that you stop and re-listen to something if you need to. And we're going to get going and start talking about just the basics of throwing today. So a couple of you guys had asked about getting a piece off the wheel. On the wheel I throw on this bat. This is what it's called. It's basically masonite. And it makes it easy for me to just take my piece off until it's leather hard, and then I can trim and do all the rest of the steps. I have multiple of these, so once I'm done I can just pick it up, put it to the side, and then I can put another one down that will allow me to continue to throw without having to deal with getting it off the wheel, which can be a pain. Okay, so step one is going to be something that you guys are familiar with, and that is wedging your clay. The clay needs to be wedged good so that it can be more easily able to throw with. The clay, when it's in the bag, it's sitting. Sometimes the outside's dry and the inside's nice and soft, and you want to make sure that when you're wedging that you're doing a good job, because it will allow all the water content to be evenly distributed between your clay, so when you're throwing there's no weird bumps or weird differences between the plasticity of the clay. So first step is to wedge your clay and then form it into a round ball, or it could be something like a triangle people sometimes use. So I have my center of my wheel, I find it, and I press down. So I'm dry centering, and step number two is going to be throwing the clay onto the bat, and then just patting it down into a sphere or into a cone-like shape. So this is the second step, which is the dry centering and patting it against the wheel. Okay, once that's good, we're going to start with step three. Step three is centering. So a couple things, my arms and legs are as close as I can get them. They're not going to be moving, they're not hovering. My elbows are locked with my knees so that when I'm throwing I have more stability with my hands and my body. And I'm going to start centering the clay. So I'm going to place my hands around the base of the clay and start slowly squeezing the clay up and down. And you repeat these steps until it is centered. So step number step number three is centering the clay. Okay, so step number three, centering the clay. So I'm about to show you guys. And remember, water is important. So step number three again, I'm centering the clay, I'm bringing it up into a cone-like shape. And I'm spinning the wheel a little faster for centering. And it's just pressure, just like with even like the pinch pots. It takes time to understand how much pressure is too much to go through your piece and how much is not enough. So I've learned that over the years. You always can add more pressure is what I always say. So I'm just coning it up. Now I'm going to get rid of this clay on the bottom to make my video a little shorter, because I don't feel like centering all that clay, and just get rid of it. This is not a step, this is just part of step three. So I'm getting rid of all that clay with my potter's rib tool. Okay, step four is bringing down the clay. So step three was bringing it up, and now I'm going to bring it down. Putting pressure at 6 o'clock. And then my left hand is catching the clay. And you can notice I'm throwing with my sponge in my hand again, so that when I need water, I can just squeeze. Okay, so I've brought it down. So the idea is that when I spin the wheel, and when I stop the wheel, that it looks pretty much the same. That's how you know your piece of clay is centered. My clay is a little wobbly, just a little. So what you do for step 5 is you're repeating your steps 3 and 4. So I'm bringing it up 3, so I'm centering it, and I'm bringing it down with step 4. So step 5 is just repeating the other steps until it is centered. Notice I do different things every time. That's just over the years of ways that I've worked. I don't really need to bring it up again because my clay is not super off-centered. If it was super off-centered, you have to keep bringing it up into a larger cone shape. But because my clay is not extremely off-center, I don't need to be as drastic with steps. So step 5 is quite easy for me. Okay, so my clay is pretty much centered. I'm trying to throw like a bowl today, something nice and easy, because the wheel is going to want to make bowls. So I've done step 5, which was repeating step 3 and 4 until its clay is centered. And now I'm going to start with step 6. Step 6 is opening the clay. I'm going to slow my wheel down just a little bit. My thumbs are going to come together in the middle and they're going to press down. So I'm going to show you kind of on the side here what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to be in the center of the clay, pressing down, and then pulling out. So you can see the steps. You're not going to be able to really see it from the video, but you gotta kind of imagine. So I'm in the center of my clay. And I'm just pressing down. Remember, water when needed, you'll know it. It's a feeling. Okay, so again, I'm on step 6. I've opened my clay. There's a hole in the middle. And then you're going to stop it. You need to make sure during this step that you see how thick the floor is. So I'm going to take my needle tool, press it in, put my finger to the base, and pull it out. And there is my thickness. That's a little thin, not too much thinner. It'll be just fine. So I'm going to stop here with pushing down, because if I go too thin, my base will... well, it will probably crack, because my base will be thin and my walls will be a little thicker, and as you guys know, when things dry, they need to be consistent. So, step 6 is done. Now I'm going to move on to step 7, which is creating my floor. So I've made the hole. Now what I'm going to do is pull the clay out at 3 and 9 o'clock. There's many ways to open. I do a variety of ways. You'll see in my videos over this next week. But I'm going to be pressing in the center, pulling out at 3 and 9 o'clock on the wheel, and making sure that I am letting the wheel go around enough times. Water there, and I am opening. Okay, creating the base of my floor. I'm making a bowl, so something I'm doing right now that you really can't see. It's not really a step per se. I'm just kind of giving that bowl a nice curve on the inside. So this is step 7. I'm creating my floor. I gotta keep it on center, and I'm compressing my floor to make it nice and clean, because sometimes it can be difficult to get back in your pot. This is gonna be a bowl, so I should have no problem getting back in there and cleaning it up later. But if it was a vase that had a narrow neck, I wouldn't be able to get my hands back in, so it's important to take the extra step and just clean it up. Okay, so step 7 is done, and now it begins the throwing parts. So step 8 is the pulling of the walls. So I'm going to slow my wheel down just a little bit, and I'm going to be using my left hand on the inside and my right hand's on the outside at 3 o'clock. I use the clock to help me understand what's happening. The wheel is spinning counterclockwise, so the clay is coming to me at 3 o'clock. If I'm working over here, I'm working against the clay, and there's a lot more of a chance that you're going to make a mistake. So that's why we work at 3 o'clock. So I have water, I have my sponge in my hand in case I need it, and I'm going to bring it up at 3 o'clock and take my time. So I'm starting back at the bottom. You're only pulling up a little bit of clay at a time. And you can feel how thick the walls are based on just taking your finger. If you take your finger and you stop it, and you can just place it, you probably can see better right here, and my wall thickness is about, I don't know, ½ an inch. I could keep throwing a lot more. And remember, you want to leave some clay because when you belly it out, it gets a little thinner, and if it's too thin, it will collapse. So again, I'm at 3 o'clock, pinching the clay. My hands are working together. And I'm just pulling up my clay. So this is, again, step 8. So I'm just pulling the clay. Not really worried about the shape too much right now. That's the next step. Right now I'm just worried about getting the clay thin. Now I know it's going to be a bowl, so I'm letting the wheel press the clay out. And I think I'm going to get one more pull out of this. Okay, so I've pulled my clay up. I have, you know, a somewhat triangular cylinder shape, but I'm gonna now turn it into more of a bowl. Okay, so step 9 is shaping. With shaping, it's just slightly pressing the clay out at 3 o'clock. Again, slowly making sure that the wheel spins enough time so that the pot is even. If you push out too quickly, it will be uneven. Water and, you know, making sure things don't happen too quickly, because you have to feel the clay, know if it's going to collapse or not. And again, working with the red clay is nice. It's a little bit stronger than a porcelain body or even the stoneware. I like the red earthenware. The only downside is that it's a little messy. It does stain. It has red iron oxides in it, which love to stain clothes and everything it touches. So I'm just, again, pushing it out at 3 o'clock, taking my time. Gotta know when to stop. Which I will tell you, I have let a lot of pots fall apart. And that's kind of how I've learned over the years too, and that's how most potters do, is you learn by your mistakes. You've heard me say it. It is no different on the wheel, that when you make a mistake, that you learn from it, and that next time that you sit down on the wheel, hopefully you don't make that same mistake and you've learned from it. Okay, so I've shaped my bowl. I'll do something fun with the rim later, after the video is done. And when we talk about trimming, I'll show you the difference. So it'll be important to kind of remember what this will look like so that you can see the changes that I make off camera. Okay, now the last step is the finishing step, so step 10. And this is where I'm taking my metal scraper tool. I'm at 3 o'clock, and just watch how different the pot looks after it has been ribbed with the rib tool, or the scraper tool. I'm slowing the wheel down, it's getting a little bouncy. And you can see the difference. The pot's a lot smoother. I'm giving it a nice clean outside appearance. and I am pretty happy with this. The other thing I'm going to do to finish up, I'm going to take my my modeling tool, and I'm going to use the triangular side at 3 o'clock, and I'm just going to trim the base off to give my bowl a much better defined foot bottom. I'm just going to remove it. And now this is just all clay that I can re-wedge. And then the last step, the red clay again is so messy and so hard to see on camera, but I'm going to clean it up so that you guys can see the actual profile of the bowl. Just cleaning up the inside. And giving it one more ribbing with the tool. Now that I've removed most of the clay. And there we go. We have a bowl. It's well thrown, it's consistent, it's centered. If you need to listen to the steps again, please watch this video again. Tomorrow, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the next stage after it gets thrown, which is going to be trimming. So you'll see this bowl tomorrow. It's going to look much different because I'm going to do some altercations to the lip and to some of the things so that you guys can see how I take, this is a great building method for me. I'm very good at throwing, so it means I can build quickly, but it's also a great way to build sculpturally. This could be the base of something much bigger. It doesn't always have to be bowls, plates, and cups, even though I do love making them. It could also be non-utilitarian, more sculptural, and more artistic in different ways. All right, so make sure that you write in all the steps. There's 10 steps. If you missed one, go back and find it. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. I hope that this is a little bit more of an exciting way to learn about pottery and ceramics. And hopefully you guys will get the chance to come back and actually get to throw. All right, so make sure you submit that worksheet in to me and have a wonderful day. All right, bye-bye, guys.